All right, let's change topics absolutely completely, because something that I definitely wanted to get to today with this group is direct sales. As we know, direct sales is historically the best way to reach contractors in the equipment rental industry. Has been for decades, probably still will be for a long time. The websites and phone calls and all of that is growing as a percentage of the industry, but it's still a direct sales industry. Now, that being said, where direct sales is typically the most effective and most common is when you start looking at larger rental companies, when you start looking at larger equipment, and you start looking at larger contractors. Now, you haven't rolled your eyes at me yet, Elliot. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to say the thing that makes you roll your eyes.
Hold on, let me get my tongue right in the middle of my teeth.
I know. I'm trying to go the extreme enough here, but a lot of the people who listen to us here and a lot of our membership are rental stores that do less than $2 million a year in a branch. They have less than, let's say if they're doing $2 million a year, maybe $2.5 million in fleet. Sales reps, as you might know, are not cheap people.
No.
It's true. It's true. So I'm going to challenge you first, and then we'll all discuss. But I want to challenge you first. If you were to build an outside sales program, or would you even build an outside sales program, if I told you that my business is going to do $2 million a year or less, and this is the hard caveat, I am not going to grow fleet to support a higher level sales rep, and I'm not going to get into larger contractors, and I'm not going to get bigger equipment. I just want to run that $2 million more efficiently. Maybe it's that I want to grow from 1.2 to 2 million or something like that. Where does direct sales fit into that, or does it?
Brilliant. No, you don't need an outside sales team. You don't need a direct sales team. But the thing is you do need customer interaction. You need to interact with your customers. The problem is right now, every one of us is constantly getting. The reason why we're talking about the great websites and everything else like that is it's not that we don't have enough information. None of us are starved for information. We have tons of information. The problem is we need somebody to coach and guide us. The problem is many of the rental houses have gotten complacent, where since 2020 and the vid, since that time frame happened, the crazy thing is that all the DIYers and home improvement people and all that business has been epic. So it's been coming in at a very fast pace. The problem is now that it's leveling off a little bit, I don't think that companies realize they need to go out and hunt. They need to go out and just go to a homeowners association in the evening. Sponsor the cupcakes and the coffee at the homeowners association meeting and set up a little booth with your little stuff there. Now, is that direct sales? Sure. But the truth is the loyalty you build with that HOA can take your business to the completely next level. Here's the thing. You look at a traditional rental yard. Mondays are crazy. Tuesdays are catch up. Wednesdays level out a little bit. Thursdays is prep and cleanup. And Fridays is planning for Monday. Or doing all your weekend warrior stuff. Why do you not send out on a Wednesday or a Thursday somebody that's on your inside counter, or even your assistant branch manager or your company owner, and you go visit that perennial principal, your top 20 customers, and invite them out to lunch, take them thank you packages, tell them we're looking to expand our fleet. How can we be a better partner to you? And the problem is I think everybody thinks, and salespeople think you have to have salespeople. Everybody in your organization's in sales. The question is are they selling? If somebody goes in, and your guy who's out in the yard, if I pull up and I say, hey, I need an air compressor, perfect. Strap it on the back of your truck, have a good day. How much hose do you need? I was amazed. I watched somebody drive off, and I'm like, hey, did you ask that guy if he needed hose? It wasn't on the contract. I'm like, well, he's going to get there, and there's something that has to happen. Those little Chicago fittings, I didn't see it in his truck. It's a bad day. And you get an opportunity, as Jeff so put it, we have to do upsells, and we have to do ancillaries, and we have to do all that other stuff. How many feet of hose do you need? Do you need any specialized tools that go with it? They're looking for us to, quote, sell and coach them in the right way. So when I think about direct sales, I think about how can we truly interact with our customers? How can we coach them and guide them for the resources we bring? There is a massive level of knowledge with 71 years in the industry that Jeff brings with his family that I'm willing to pay for. The problem is we go in and we become order takers, not coaches, not guides, not salespeople. And the truth is nobody wants a salesperson, but we all want someone that can advise and trust us on where we need to take our business. And that's sales.
That's fair.
How much fleet supports a salesperson, do you think?
It depends on the salesperson. I see organizations legit that they've got $20, $30 million OEC sitting in their yard, and they don't have any outside salespeople. They just don't. And then I see organizations that are smaller. They're coming in at 10 million OEC, and sure enough, they've got a salesperson. And I don't think there's a direct formula. I think that it really boils down to you need to have enough vision of where you want your business to go. If the business is walking through the door and it's DIYers, it's convenient, it's all within 10 miles of your branch, then in which case it's all about the website, it's all about advertising, it's all about marketing, and it's about taking your top 10 customers out to lunch, and you don't need a sales team. If you're sitting there and you're new to a market, you're recently part of that, you go in and someone's new to the market, absolutely you need salespeople that are out shaking hands, kissing babies, building relationships, letting people know what you bring to the market. And there's no set formula of when you need a salesperson. I think if you've got 30 million OEC sitting in your yard and it's not moving, it's about time you get a salesperson.
Yeah.
I think if you've got 10 million sitting in your yard, OEC, and it's not, and you're at 43% utilization, it's time to do things different. I was just with a big giant rental company, and everybody I'm talking to, we've heard it, where people are like, oh, it's a lull this year, there's a slowdown this year. This company's showing double-digit growth. And they're like, they would be comparable to what your business is, Jeff. I mean, not exactly, but they're not one of the big five. And they're showing double-digit growth in, quote, a down year. The reason why they've invested in sales, they've invested in direct sales, they've got salespeople that they're training the hell out of them, and they are gaining market share and taking it from the competition. But they're building that relationship. The problem is if you don't take care of your customers, you know this, somebody else will. And the problem is if you look, and there's been studies done, the number one reason why you've lost a customer, tell me what it is. Number one reason why you lose a customer.
Equipment didn't work, I guess?
Nope.
Somebody else came in and got him?
Nope.
Someone else came in and poached your
Poor
customer?
relationships.
You did the number one thing they asked customers, why did you quit? And the number one thing they said is, nobody cared for me. I walked in and you walk in. I walk in and you're like, Elliot. I'm like, Jeff, let me take you back and get you the equipment you need. Next time we walk in, who is this guy? Sir, who are you? Can I get a copy of your driver's license? Hey, and you know what? I'm no longer special. We were just talking about these membership things. I'm no longer special. Because I'm not special, I'll go find someone who makes me feel special. Right now, we're all dying to feel special. The big thing with sales is it gives people a personal connection with your company. You want them to drive business and bring in new business, but take care of your existing business. And you have to make that decision. If you're not doing that as a business owner, then you need to hire someone who can.
Yeah, I love that from a couple different points. You know, one of them that, from my personal experience, is you're right about people not caring. I think that some of the statistics I've seen is 68% of business or customers leave because nobody cared. And so I often try and steal stuff from other industries, borrow or whatever you want to call it, people who are really successful at it. And one of the ones that we borrowed was from Disney stores. One of my friends, I was in a mall, I was working in a mall, and many years ago now, and my friend had told me that you can't get to the back of a Disney store without somebody greeting you, because it is a policy of theirs that you feel welcomed within like 30 or 60 seconds of walking into the store or something like. I'm like, okay, that's crap. So me and my friend go to the Disney store in the mall. We kind of like split up so that we can divide and conquer. Like, we're gonna get back to the back of this Disney store, and nobody's gonna say hi to me, right? So we get there. We've got our plan, and we split up. We can see two customer service reps, I guess you would say, in the store at the time. And so my friend is going on the right, I'm going on the left. My friend gets caught really quickly because they were helping somebody else, but they turned and said, hey, is there anything we can help you with? We'll be with you in just a minute. And so they got caught. They thought they weren't going to get caught because they were talking to somebody else. I am halfway through the store. I'm going through the Ariel's Little Mermaid grotto thing. I'm halfway through the store. I can see the back of the store. I can see the two customer service reps. I'm like, I've got this in the bag. I'm going to beat Disney. And just as I get through the grotto, there's somebody pops out from behind the grotto and says, hey, is there anything I can help you with? I'm like, dang it.
I just get to see these guys running a play in the store. It's like a wide out. You go down the file. It's like when you're kids and playing football. You go down here, and I'm going to go around like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that these employees are like, why are these guys so disappointed
Why are you
right
in
now?
the Little Mermaid section, by the way?
So many problems for lost.
Right.
But if you
No,
think
that was
about
security. That wasn't an employee.
that's right.
Can we get this man out?
But if you think about that, how often does that happen in a rental store? And so we implemented a model of that, because what happens in a rental store is a customer comes in, and maybe when they come straight into the front, somebody will help them. There's a salesperson up there, a counter person, or somebody that will help them. But definitely when they go to the back to get loaded up, a driver walks by, a mechanic walks by, a shop manager walks by, an outside sales rep walks by, a manager walks by. Because everybody knows that the person who's there to take care of them is the service technician who is doing the loading and unloading, that's what that person is waiting for. But the customer knows is 5 people just walk by that don't care. I don't matter. And so
I think that's very interesting.
So we implemented a policy that every time you came across a customer, you had to greet them. It didn't mean that you had to help them, but you had to greet them and see if there was anything that you could do. Now, in many cases, the thing that you would do is say, oh, that's great. Well, Mike or Susan or whoever is going to be here in just a second. They're helping that customer. They're going to load you up. But we do not walk past a customer without somebody talking to them. And our goal was 5 people talk to a customer every time that they come in there. Because if you're constantly being bombarded with people going, hey, how are you? Can I help you? Is there anything I can do for you? Like, you feel cared for.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, and how often does that happen around? And it's not because anybody's doing anything wrong. That driver has to get to the next delivery. The sales rep's got to go do something else. The manager's got to go fix a part problem. But it takes 5 seconds to stop and say hi. And
I will tell you honestly, you and I are on the same page. I actually have. With all the different rental companies that I go into, oftentimes I walk into the branch, I'm there with the owner, I'm there with a sales rep, and as we get on the counter person, they want to know who I am, I'm a visitor, and like there'll be 3 or 4 rental people talking like we're talking shop right now. And a customer will walk in and it is crazy. I can't get it out of me.
yeah,
I will literally, I don't work for their company. I'm coming in outside. And I'll literally stop the conversation, turn around and say, hey, welcome. Is there anything we can do for you today?
can't help it. Yep.
Can't help it. I was out in California, 4 people standing at the counter, one of them was eating lunch, and a customer walks in, and the first thing I said, I was like, is there anything? The guy's like, yes. I'm walking over, and all of a sudden, I'm talking to him about Hilti products, and they're like, you don't even work for our company. I said, oh, but I work in this industry, and I love this industry, and you've got to care for our customers. You've got to.
But let's go back, because I think all those things are important. We've got to do that. But let's go back to the kind of the original question of outside sales. I think that you've got to do the customer experience, and we can do that a lot better. And there are ways, and maybe that's a future even conversation. But from the outside sales perspective, a lot of times people want numbers. So I'm going to throw out some numbers. These are my own personal opinions. You may completely disagree with them. But I would say to have an outside sales rep, you need $5 to $10 million in fleet to support them. Customer base matters. Fleet mix matters. Number of locations matters. But to me, that's a relative number. I think at $5 million, you could get started with somebody to work outside and maybe grow that person over time. A $5 million fleet is not enough to support a high-powered outside salesperson. That might be a person that goes out 2-3 times a week or something like that. But what you can then start to do is say, well, this location has $4 million and this location has $4 million. Now I can afford an outside salesperson to support both markets together, and they spend half their time in one market, half their time in another market. But if you scale that even back, and that's where I think the creativity matters and some of the things that you said, let's scale it back to you've got a single location, $2 million a year rental company. There's somebody in that store that can have a calling campaign where every week they spend 1 hour making calls. Thank for business from customers from the previous week. Calling customers who spent over a certain amount of money. Calling your top customers. There's a number of things that you can plan to do every week. On top of that, send them out a half day. This is just a palm presser. This is not a outside
so you
sales
used to
negotiator.
do this, I know, at your company that you ultimately sold. Did you go through a lot of training with these guys as to how? Because not everybody's a natural salesman. I mean, I'm a little nervous to give my phone to just anybody in the. And obviously, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But
we did. We had, and I'm happy to share this with anybody who wants to ask me for it. We had a training program that took them from DIY homeowner calls all the way up to calling on a plant and trying to prospect. But it started with, if you were brand new on our counter, every week you called 5 DIY customers and thanked them for their business. That's all you had to do.
Build the foundation.
Like, nobody calls a DIY customer and thanks them for their business. You can't screw that up. When you call a DIY customer, okay, well, fair. I guess it's possible, but it's relatively easy and relatively low risk to call somebody and say, hey, I saw you run at a log splitter. Just wanted to thank you for coming in. If you've got any future projects, I'm here to help you. That's all you got to do. Get them exposed to that. And then you step up from there to now that person, once they get comfortable doing the DIY calls, now they move to customers who spent $500 with you last week. 5 customers who spent $500 with you last week. And then you keep going up from there because it's amazing how much, especially when you're talking about a small contractor, it's amazing how much that Thank for Business call matters. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a company that is targeting a big job site and renting, large pieces of equipment, multiple months, that sales rep is not calling somebody that spends $5,000 a year with them and saying, hey, we appreciate you. That's all you got to do. I'm not trying to sell you more. Now, higher levels of that call might. I am just building a relationship to show that somebody cares, and I'm doing that from the inside. The better somebody gets at that, the more I have them do things. But a branch manager could go out and drop off muffins, or something. That's not hard. We're not asking people to, do the Elliott Vigil of go out on a job site in a market that you've never been in with customers that you don't know, with a company that you don't actually represent, and close a deal. All I'm asking you to do is go see a customer that rented something last week and buy them a biscuit and say thanks.
That's right.
And that alone, we talk about the 80-20 rule, that alone I think makes such a huge difference. But there's got to be a plan. You've got to require it. You've got to practice it. You've got to start them at the beginning. You've got to build that skill level over time. And anybody can call and thank somebody for their business. And if you can't, they probably shouldn't be on the counter.
Brilliant. And I think that's it's critical. And the thing is it's not rocket science. You can't go to a restaurant. Every one of us has sat down at a restaurant, even just the regular chains, and somebody walks by and all they say is, and you know who your waiter is, and the person walks by and they say, how was your experience? How's your meal going? Did you get everything you wanted? And when they walk away, and all of a sudden the first words out of your mouth is, that had to have been the manager or the shift manager or whatever, and they're checking up on me. But that teaches the fundamentals of customer service and sales that will build our business to the next generation.
Yep.
And the thing is the big 5 have all learned the value of that, of human interaction. The biggest thing that we're all starved for right now is genuine and honest human interaction. And if I have to take what you said, and you did it right, where a minimum of 5 people have to touch a customer. But the reason why is when people walk in, they want to be, it goes down to, we are, as humans, we are culturally inept people. We want to interact. Mm-hmm. We want to listen to this podcast. We want to sit down and have a conversation with Jeff. He and I both walk up and immediately you start talking to somebody because we're dying for human interaction.
Yep.
But yet you go to a rental yard and we hire a lot of people that are introverts, or they just figure, you know what, it's just another person. If you give them that quality interaction, if you give them that quality experience, that wow experience, they become addicts. Yeah, overwhelming.
Yeah.
With, man, these people care. Hey, I know that this probably is not your first rental, or maybe it is. Can I teach you some tricks on how to start this piece of machine?
So here's the other thing that I think about when I think about smaller companies.
I think you're right on.
If you only have one outside sales, nice fist bump. If you only have one outside sales rep, that feels risky, right? Like I'm all tied up in what that person is bringing in and what that person's doing. For smaller companies, I think that it is not about making that leap to an outside sales rep. It's about always doing all those steps in the process. So we did have outside sales reps in some of our branches over a period of time as we got larger, as our branches would support that. But we always did the internal calls. We always had the younger people going out and visiting. We always had the branch managers making calls because I didn't want to be dependent on that sales rep. That sales rep wasn't, again, they weren't an Elliott Vigil out there just like hunting and killing everything. Now, we had some that were really good at that and they brought in a lot of business, but I was so protected because my customer had a relationship with 4 people inside of every branch.
That's right.
They could call 4 people. They weren't supposed to call the sales rep. I don't want them to call the sales rep.
Right.
The sales rep is out there to drum up new business, be on a job site, shake hands, kiss babies. I want the business to own the customer. And I want to train more people to be, part-time salespeople. And so I think some of the fear is, well, what if I get a great sales rep and they leave? Or what if I can't afford to keep them? It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I certainly want to keep my people, but the relationship is, my customer knows they can call the branch manager, they can call the person in the office. I think that is different than what you see with a lot of companies who target a large contractor. That sales rep is the headhunter where all the communication goes through. They're heavily incentivized for that. They protect their business. You don't talk to the branch manager. You don't talk to the counter person. And if that sales rep leaves, you're at risk. If my sales rep left, then I've got another person I've been training to do that, and they've got a relationship with 4 other people there, and so we wish them well, and we hope that they're really happy wherever else that they go.
That's right.
But so I think that you have to be
that's
creative
a
and
very
think
good point.
differently as a smaller rental company. But it's all about where you're at in the process. The answer isn't, though, well, I can't do direct sales because I'm too small. It's what part of direct sales can I do, and start and build from there.
I love that. Absolutely love that. That's the right answer. Is everybody thinks they need to, quote, make the leap. There's a big chunk between I've just hired 3 salespeople and they're all $100,000 a year first year guarantee because I want somebody who's worth a dang, to I am going to coach and build a sales culture internally, and we're going to transition from just a service company to having a sales arm that grows our business.
Yeah.
And I think that's brilliant the way you put it. Is there's you can make phone calls over the phone, you can make visits, you can go drop off biscuits. It doesn't have to be somebody out driving around in a truck for 10 hours.
Yeah.
It can be somebody who says, look, every day you work the counter until 10 a.m. We have a nice lag in this business from about 10 to about 1, where the phones die down and everything. You know what your job is? Take customers out to lunch and go visit job sites and bring back 3 or 4 leads of people we can go call on.
So I know
Perfect.
I'm a little bit on a soapbox here, but one of the other things that I would think about as a smaller rental company is if you go straight to the direct outside, full-time, highly commissioned sales rep, that might not be your business. And it is easy to get distracted by, I need to have an outside sales rep that does that thing. But when you look at those other models where you're using an inside sales force or part-time salespeople, you might be artificially limiting the type of customer that you can access, but that might actually be what you want to do. The end goal isn't necessarily to have a full-time direct outside sales rep. Because if you're a company like, I would say Northside is, where you don't want a store to get too big. You don't necessarily want to carry a bunch of CDL equipment. You don't want to compete with a national rental company. You want to compete in a market where you can win and be the best. I don't ever want to have a full-time direct outside sales rep. I'm never going to be able to afford that.
Do you have sales,
and,
Jeff?
and I don't want it. What I want is a good inside sales program and potentially a door knocker in certain areas, because that's going to grow where I'm best and it's not going to distract me from the other. The other can be a real distraction and can put you in a place where now I have a high-powered sales rep. They want me to get all this big equipment. They're highly commissioned. I might lose them to somebody else. Now I'm competing on price with the large rental companies or a large competitor. Like, I'm playing a different ball game. I'm not recommending you do that, or that has to be the end goal.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. And because we've tried so many times over the 25 years to bring in an outside salesperson who maybe has a history in one of the other rental companies, just not a fit. You know, the mentality and the capacity of a national rental branch is it's a different world from what we do.
It
you know
is.
what I mean? And when our average customer is going to spend $400 or $500 on a single ticket, it's hard to send a person out to go get that order.
Yeah,
now,
and then pay them a commission on it.
now we do. Oh, and then don't even get me started. And then and we do outreach calls to customers that we haven't seen in a while. That we have a specific list of contractors that we're kind of. But I actually like your system better, which is they just did business and you're calling them quickly as a thank you follow up.
Yeah.
I think that actually probably A is more effective than what we're trying to do right now, and I think B it's probably a lot more natural
Totally.
for one of my branches to call people that they just saw last weekend, so it's not like it's a random cold call to them. You know what I'm saying?
It's so true.
And when you're telling them, hey, we haven't seen these guys in a while, give them a ring and see, just remind them they don't even know how to do it. I don't even know how to really honestly what I'm trying to tell them to do when they do that.
I will tell you the one thing is do have somebody on your counter, call up those DIY contractors, the smaller contractors, call them up. How was the service? Is there anything we can do better as Northside to better your experience going forward? Do you have future projects that are getting ready to start off you want to make a reservation for so you're not fighting to see if we've got the fleet? And last but not least, do you know anybody else in your neighborhood, fellow contractors, that could use our services, and how can we help those people out? Now, you've taken
Brilliant.
care of the past, you've bettered your future,
That's perfect.
you've solidified future orders, which we already talked about today, and you got a referral, and guess how much it cost you? Nothing. Nothing. That person was already sitting on the counter playing on their phone from 10 o'clock until 1.
Right.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're making those calls, and boom, you're driving your business. And guess what? No, I don't know anybody else who can use your service. You planted the seed of that. Now they're thinking about, who else? You know what? Northside does a damn good job. You know what? Hey, the next time we need to rent something.
Well, or the next time somebody asks them, who do you like to use? Just
they're not.
I like
saying,
that. You've planted the seed. They're not going to go out and sell for you,
No, yeah.
but they're not even going to remember why they're telling them to go to you when somebody asks.
That's the
them.
right answer.
You're so right. Well, we have had an amazing conversation.
Yeah, it's
today.
been great.
And we didn't even get everything covered.
I know.
I know. It was just.
I love that though.
I love the twists and turns. You just
Yeah.
never know.
That's right. It was
But
awesome.
we're at a point where we've got to wrap it up. I am sure we will have more discussions. But I'm so glad to have been able to have this one with you guys today.
great.
I've learned something myself, new ideas. I mean, it's too
learned
much
a lot.
fun. So I hope our listeners and watchers enjoyed as well. I'm sure we will be back soon, but thank you guys so much for joining us today and sharing all of your amazing
Thank
thoughts
you guys
and
for
ideas.
having me. It's been a
Thank
pleasure
you so
to meet
much,
you.
Jeff. Absolutely.
I looked up your videos on YouTube yesterday,
man,
and I was
thank
like,
you.
"These are awesome."